was there. We spoke of was and when, although I wasn't there. He said I was his friend, which came as some surprise. I spoke into his eyes. I thought you died alone a long, long time ago. Oh no, not me. I never lost control. Your face to face with the man who sold the world.
The Good Business by Steven Ziegler. In Boston, they ask, how much does he know? In New York, how much is he worth? In Philadelphia, who were his parents? Mark Twain. Chapter 1. Fools and their money soon go separate ways. $1 million often leads to 1 million stories stemming from one place when the Friday evening cocktail parties give the attendees the chance to shed the frustration of the work week. The communal buzz drove the conversation, but they would never admit it. Outfits were procured at dawn with accessories designed to complement the stars. Natural life began in the womb, but a collective conscience developed in a penthouse. Needs, wants, and desires were rolling about, pushing people where they thought they should be. All decisions led to the same inevitable end, no matter how unique their story. The days were long and sleep was rare. With nothing to cling to other than a job, Andrew could not see much else on the horizon. His sex drive was gone, and release was no more than a physical requirement. Women were, and would continue to be, a distraction. He wondered why he was so disconnected, considering he no longer had to remain on the fringes of the scene he so desired to join. His lack of confidence led to the incessant musing about who or what would be in his best interests. For years he had been the consummate background player, and the limelight required more charisma than he possessed. Each night, Andrew overcompensated for the past by walking through the golden revolving doors of Towers Residential and riding the elevator to the 20th floor. However, the opportunity seemed lost, and every passing hour felt like another day. He was taking more calls than he was making, and he saw the trouble in that. Most were debt collectors, aware of his recent cash windfall and his ability to pay what he owed. Drugs ate away a tiny portion of his brain, while his depression covered the rest. He wandered the halls and streets at night, finding ghosts while searching for inspiration. The counter seats and cheap diner coffee fueled him. He kept to himself, but he needed the warmth of people around him because isolation was frigid. He reached into a half-open box and tossed family portraits into a trash bag. The people in those pictures no longer existed. They were naive, in love, unprepared, and unwilling to accept each other's differences. His mother appeared more vibrant, and her hair was cropped into a ridiculous plum-tinged mid-90s bouffant. His father's smile was whiter and more genuine than it seemed these days. Sears never could capture what was going on behind closed doors. Andrew tied a tight knot in the bag. Hearing it land at the bottom of the trash chute gave him a sense of accomplishment in the face of habitual procrastination. A 9:30 p.m. dinner had become the norm. Andrew regarded self-care as not getting too many crumbs on his shirt while eating a flimsy sandwich over the sink. Crashing into the couch so often flattened the seat cushions. Here he was, living alone, exploring the big city he never left. Doing so was perceived differently than being alone in the country. A grown man in a secluded wooded area was more than likely on a few federal government watch lists, while a guy in an isolated high-rise was believed to be pursuing a career. Luxurious slavery. The machine thrived on it, and he knew it. He kept that type of conversation to himself because it made everyone in his world uneasy. Others on the street silenced similar thoughts with their AirPods. They hunted for someone to fuck or swindle until they combined the two into a loveless marriage. Living amongst other breathing creatures of our own species, but opting not to interact, remained exclusive of humanity. After a quick nap, Andrew sprung from the couch and perched at his window to observe a fully lit Philadelphia nearing midnight. He felt a kinship with the others who kept their lights on at all hours. This view was a distraction from his romantic failures. Spite was his top priority after the last one. Overcompensation was an unrealized second. From the balcony, he could often hear the pointless conversations from al fresco bistros like crickets. He kept thinking of his next move, and from this height, the obvious one was jumping. He'd leapt plenty of times. That's how he got here. Well, that and deceit. The breeze on the balcony put out the fire of his last Marlboro. The elevator provided a barrier to help him quit. Sweat formed around his near-empty rocks glass, so he went for another pour. Andrew surveyed his pretentious jail cell. The meticulously curated chairs invited guests who would never arrive. Some RSVP'd with a maybe. Crystal decanters atop the bar held one cheap glass of whiskey between the three of them. The cheapest dominated the glass, but at least the vessel had done its job, and the aftertaste of plastic was minimal. Other than the empty Tinder encounters, company was scarce. Lost identities, always guarded, floated all around him. He fabricated their backstories for his own entertainment. Except for Charlotte, he came to know her story. As much as he was complimented on his appearance, he usually believed people were looking for the wrong reasons. His life, until this point, consisted of regulating his octaves to maintain his paycheck. Now he was playing house with himself. The refrigerator hummed along with the rest of the city. A fortress of commerce stood to the north, and to the south, the trappings of his past. He squinted at the clock tower of his childhood parish, where he spent his summer days scrubbing floors and his Sundays preparing the altar for Mass. It was almost midnight. Finding self-importance and connection in the isolation provided one of the few keys to the fortress. Bloodlines put a ceiling on progress beyond the parish. He would often wonder if he had abandoned the faith, but when the guilt subsided, he realized it was quite the opposite. Winds picked up around the busiest buildings and eliminated distractions beyond the bubble where those who had made it and those who were faking it chose to live. The view was important since he did not have much else. And Towers Residential could be attributed to either the laziest or most intuitive ad man who stumbled into success when the client called for simplicity. He worked not to tilt the mirror in such a way as to show the clientele as the posh, vapid simpletons they were. Knowing that, he could work honestly and understand these people. Doing so was half the battle in completing the grift. The reversal of words rolled off the tongue in upspeak instead of the straight and narrow S. There was no potential for spit to fly free. For the younger crowd, it was a hip, cheaper place to reside. When Andrew rested his head, his dreams blended his fantasies and fears of this new world of temporary affluence. An Olympic-sized swimming pool separated him from the master bedroom. The walls narrowed and the water rose. It morphed into a dunk tank filled with the frigid seaweed green water of the Atlantic, inhabited by two mermaids with hardened, fully made-up faces, born from his memories of summers on the Jersey Shore. Their mermaid tails grew from the wide hips of his fantasies. "Join us. What are you afraid of?" their voices echoed. Andrew faced the tank again and gripped the handle of the glass door. He opened it, expecting the waves to wash over him. Still waters. He dipped his index finger into the unmoving, liquid wall. The siren song of the mermaids drew him underwater, and the door closed behind him. He thrashed about until he was swimming a full lap in the pool, head bobbing and mouth gurgling. He blinked to rid his eyelashes of the lingering droplets. He saw a white bikini bottom below the ivory-colored stomach flesh of a woman wading in shallow water, displaying her appetizing thighs. When he reached her, he caressed her hips and steadied himself. He felt the baby bump against the bulb of his nose. Andrew shook off the strange dream. His high blood pressure would often reveal itself in cold night sweats soaking his new pillowcases. The sun-bathed room was a pleasant replacement for an alarm clock. Andrew had not gotten comfortable waking up alone. There was always a split second spent wondering where he was. The warm water of his shower did its job in calming him until he pulled a strand of brown hair from the luscious mane atop his skull. Save for the very few compliments about his character, most people noticed his hair. He could not lose it. It became his only form of rebellion, and in recent months, the only thing he could control. A floor-length mirror showcased his bloated and disproportionately sculpted physique. He needed it now more than ever. The white walls of the apartment created an asylum. Andrew had taken every measure to remain alone. Weighing solitude and schizophrenia was a battle without victory. The pristine chairs would continue to sit empty and reflect another failure. This was pure self-indulgence, barely masquerading as nothing more than a band-aid on a gaping wound. Everything and everyone else were a backdrop. Any slight inconvenience caused discomfort. He whirled through the doors and into the wind. The city was desolate. A few remnants of the mummers' raucous celebration littered the streets. Back home, a mile south, the breeze would be blowing confetti and sweeping silly string for weeks. Here, the colors were washed away by the rain and swept up by the underpaid. Members of polite society were obsessed with ridding their world of what they deemed frivolous, while building their wealth and social lives on pure speculation and networking. Andrew had a fleeting sense of nostalgia while traveling from his home tower to his work tower. Lightning cracking in the sky encouraged him to pick up his pace. He passed through the steel doors and scribbled his signature. A lengthy elevator ride led to another series of glass doors. Upon entering People for Good, he caught the smile of the young receptionist. He controlled his lustful thoughts, knowing she was on college break and that at least a decade divided them in age. He moved through the maze of cubicles laid before him in search of Sam Pearson's office. The enormous windows surrounding the perimeter reflected the natural light of a gray sky into the workspaces. Andrew pushed open Sam's office door to see the familiar red mustachioed man sitting before him. "Good morning, Andrew," Sam said. "Have a seat." "Always quiet here at the start of the new year. Most folks are using their vacation time." Sam paused for a moment to add a bit of emotion to the platitudes. "Happy New Year, Andrew." "Happy New Year, sir." Andrew settled into an uncomfortable chair. Sam kept them that way to keep company from staying too long. The two men faced each other, 3 generations apart, agreeing to fight for the same cause, ending poverty. Sam reviewed Andrew's file. "Towers Residential. Do you like it?" "It's quiet." "It is. Where are you parking?" "On the street mostly, for now." "Here, I'm changing something." Sam slammed the keyboard for an unnecessarily lengthy period. "Get yourself a garage spot. Use the pay increase. I don't want you being bothered with all that." "Thank you. I don't know what to say." "You'll figure it out." "You're welcome." "Thank you. Seriously." Andrew could smell the Canadian Club in Sam's coffee. Sam smacked his lips together at his latest sip and looked surprised that the new hire was still sitting there. Sam sent Andrew off to his assigned 3¼ walled cubicle. Andrew looked in a few to find most people missing. Those present were startled or disinterested by his presence. With easy access to the water fountain, restrooms, and his boss's quarters, Andrew was ready to accomplish the tasks ahead of him. A calendar was carelessly tacked to the wall with January 2nd circled by a smiley face. He daydreamed that the illustrator would encourage him to meet her in a quiet break room to forget about her husband. The manila folder of projects in front of him was crisp and stamped with the organization's Helping Hands logo and mission: End poverty, bring joy. The motto, stenciled on every notepad, plaque, folder, mousepad, and formerly blank wall in each of the organization's properties, caused a few folks to wonder if those marketing dollars would be better spent living the motto instead of creating brand recognition. None would dare speak up for fear of losing their cushy benefits and inflated sense of self-worth. Andrew was greeted by the familiar Windows ding of an honest day's work. It had gotten more melodic over the years and did its best to set a positive tone for the monotonous 8 hours ahead.
Here is surface on the sidewalk on my block the other day. Yeah, it's a fact check, it's sorry Charlie, honey, he's back from LA. So son, you better turn it around. Yeah, Christ is on his way across town. He was getting tired of hanging around. Yeah, he's back, Jack, smoking crack, find him if you wanna get found. He's having supper with the upper management of a new regime. He's in a new jacket, tax bracket, sandals, and a dark pair of jeans. He's got deductions right on down the line, dependent claims on all of mankind. Have no fear, he's right here, drinking beer, just trying to get down. He resurfaced on the sidewalk on my block the other day. Yeah, it's a fact check, it's sorry Charlie, honey, he's back from the grave. You better turn your frown upside down. Christ is on his way across town. He was getting tired of